Hello Java programming students. It's time for another game module. So just as a reminder, a couple weeks ago I put together a game module for you to help you with text files, both reading in from text files and writing to text files, something that you'll have to include with your game. So you might want to take a look at the video 1 and 2 here from a couple weeks ago. That could be helpful. Today what I'd like to talk about is splitting your program up into smaller files. So I'm going to use takeout, which was a type along from maybe 4 weeks ago. You can find on my website and hopefully find within your own code. And takeout has lots of classes. It has 7 classes in it. So the primary client class is called takeout here, but then it has a class called order panel. And then it's got another class called Get Input with Components. It has another class called Working Results Panel. And it has 7 classes. And when you're working with a big project, and of course your game is the biggest project of the year, you shouldn't put everything in one file. Each class should have its own file. So this pay panel class should be in its own file. And so just as a reminder for what takeout does, let's compile it and run it. And so it was from about a month ago. So takeout, if I can choose an appetizer or appetizers, maybe a couple main dishes, a couple drinks, and then I can go to checkout and get some information. Maybe I don't need tea, so I can maybe undo choosing tea, and maybe I don't want the jumbo shrimp, so I'll take that off the list, and maybe take stir fry off the list. All right, so that's how it worked. Now we can get the same functionality if we separate out these classes. Now you won't have to do this, but what I have done here is I have changed the names here to takeout 2 and order panel 2, just so that I can compare and contrast. So if we look at takeout, takeout now has its own file, So just takeout, and you'll notice that in the original takeout, I had lots of imported libraries that I was using because it applied to all of the classes that were to follow. But with takeout 2, well, I've just got these 2 libraries that I need to make use of because that's all that's being used for takeout 2. So I can make my class, I can make this file a little bit smaller. For the original takeout, for my order panel was a really small class. It's where the card layout is set up. And so here, if I create my own file for it, I have to include what I need, right? I need the border factory, I need JPanel, it's a card layout, it's using a color for the background, but it's got its own file. Notice that this is public. So in the original takeout, I can only have one public class, and I decided to make that my primary client class takeout, and then all the other classes are not public. But if you are splitting this up into pieces, as you should for your game, you want to make sure that each of these classes is public. And so I've done that with each of these. The biggest class is going to be the Get Input with Components 2. That's a relatively large class. It has a couple hundred lines of code, but it's a single class. And so my list of imports is bigger because there's more that's going on. Again, notice it's public. I've called it 2 just so that, Get Input with Components 2, just so I can compare and contrast it. And then all of the other classes, the other 4 classes, are very similar, right? It's public. I only have the list of libraries that it needs. Next one, again, is public. It only has the libraries that it needs. Pay panel 2 is a little bit smaller, so smaller list. And then for the data, well, there's nothing I need to import because this is just storing the data. It doesn't have anything to do with the graphics. That was the last class in takeout. If I go down toward the bottom here, that was the class that stored all of the information, the arrays that would describe the parts of the meal. So now that I have this in separate classes, again, there's 7 of them. They're all public classes in their own files. And now I can go to compile that. And then I can run it, and the functionality is going to be exactly the same. So I can choose maybe chicken dumplings, 4 cheese nachos, grilled eggplant, and maybe coffee. And so those are all chosen here. I can go back, maybe undo chicken dumplings. I'm really hungry, so I'm going to have stir fry too, and pretty thirsty, so we'll add some soda and go to checkout. So functionality is exactly the same. So make sure that for your game project that you are doing this, that you are not just writing one huge file. Again, hopefully the code that you're accumulating here will perhaps be thousands of lines long, and you don't want that in just a single file. You want that in separate files. And you don't want to wait until the end to do this, because then you're going to have trouble figuring out what the imports should be. You'll get probably a little tied up with that. So you want to do it early, start splitting things up into separate classes. Of course, you can start the first couple weeks. You've been working for a couple weeks on the game. It's fine to put it all in one file, but then you're going to want to start splitting it up. And don't wait any longer than probably this week to do that splitting up. Okay. Happy coding, and we'll see you soon.